Welcome back to Highly Successful Couples, the podcast that helps couples grow together instead of growing apart. I'm your host, Nick Solacek, and today we are going to talk about some common issues, fears, and concerns that couples have about couples therapy, doing work together, going to see a coach, counselor, psychologist, and some of the conversations that happen in private that actually prevent couples from getting started at all. And when we've got one person in a relationship or both who are unwilling to seek wisdom, seek advice, seek third-party counsel, they can be in a tough position because what do they do with the issues at hand? Do they read books in private? Do they listen to podcasts? Does that help inspire them to have the hard talks, to repair, to talk about the things that matter most, create a shared vision, and really help transform some of the negative dynamics that are going on in their relationship? Well, quite possibly. Every couple is different. And I want to talk about some of the main patterns that I see and some of the things that are going on inside of a relationship or inside of a family system that prevent couples from moving forward. One of the first things is really stigma, which is that couples feel a little embarrassed about seeking therapy. They're worried that, it means something bad about them or bad about the relationship. And that if other people find out, that it will be seen negatively, that they'll be judged for it or looked down on. And the other piece to this is really just shame. Couples feel shame about the challenges that they face. They don't want to struggle. And they ask themselves, why can't we work through this? Why hasn't that one therapy session we went to worked its magic? Why do we keep having the same fights over and over again? Why don't you understand me? Even if they feel like they're a team and the relationship is safe, they can feel shame about struggling. I'm certified in couples therapy. My partner and I have spent, I want to say, hundreds of hours working on ourselves in therapy, in couples therapy, learning, growing, developing, healing things that need to be healed, talking about things that need to be talked about. There's many issues and things we felt like we needed support on, some heavy stuff that we were holding. And, we often wonder, how are couples doing if they don't have training, if they haven't done hundreds of hours of work in a clinical setting? How much information might they be missing? And how is that impacting them? How are they making it work? I've always felt like relationships are a worthwhile effort. And as I learn more, I really see, wow, they are hard. It's really hard work to create a partnership that you love. It takes a lot of energy consistently putting it in. So if you feel this shame or you feel this embarrassment, there's a potential reframe here for you, which is that it's also a sign of strength that you're actually willing to be vulnerable, put your hand up, let someone in the room to ask good questions and give you guidance and get a sense of more of what's going on. And it can be a real commitment to the relationship, for the couple to say, hey, we're willing to put our money up. We're willing to put our time up. We want to fight for this thing. That really actually builds resilience and can show your partner, it can show each other that, hey, okay, I'm here. I'm gonna show up for this. Shows that you value the partnership and you're willing to do some work. So in my experience, couples benefit from therapy and it's really a positive step. There are a number of things that can get in their way. We're going to talk on a little bit about previous failed experiences or having a negative experience with therapy. One thing that comes up a lot these days is cost. People feel that they are under a lot of financial pressure, whether that's aspects of the economy, inflation, the job market, cost of living, and that it's expensive. Some people believe that in order for therapy to work, they have to go every week for months and months and months. And some people have done that in the past, which is why they think maybe that's the only way that it works and they've got to do it again now. Some couples just have other financial burdens that they're managing and their stress levels are high. Maybe they don't have insurance coverage or medical benefits, so they're paying out of pocket for support. And one of the challenges here is that if we're under stress from financial burdens piling up, if we're under stress from aspects of our life, that stress is only going to add to the stress between the two of you. It's going to impact you. So this doesn't mean you have to go into more and more debt going to therapy, but it does mean that you got to somehow find a way, whether it's a free podcast like this or a $10 book at the used bookstore, find a way to put some energy in, because it's not, these patterns are not going to change itself. Your relationship will not transform itself. You are going to have to practice new things, learn new skills, gain new insights that can help motivate and inspire you to see things in a new way, to see more of what's going on instead of the limited perspective that we often all operate with. So yeah, therapy can be an investment. I get it. My partner and I, some years, have looked at the bills and thought, geez, we spent thousands of dollars this year on therapy. Maybe we should have just gone to Italy for a week and had some Aperol spritzes. I don't know. But some therapists do offer sliding scales. I think that there are some huge benefits here that outweigh the costs in the long run. So if you can afford it, do it. Check with your insurance provider if you got one. That could definitely be helpful. A lot of successful couples, people that have a lot going on, and they're in long-term relationships with kids or a dog or big projects or multiple businesses that they run, also feel like they don't have time. They don't have time to commit to regular therapy sessions. They've got a busy schedule. They have a hard time just finding an hour or two that they could put in together to make it work. And I get it. It's a lot of responsibility, being a parent or being an entrepreneur. As adults, we really do have to manage a lot. And what I would say is that, look, you don't have to go once a week. You don't even have to go twice a week. But if you just go, even if you went once a month, how much of a difference could that make? Even if you went every 60 days, just checking in, just getting into the room and having a conversation about this really, really important relationship that really determines so much about your day-to-day experience and your satisfaction level and your level of fulfillment. So with this stuff, we're investing in the future. We're investing in our partnership, and even a small amount of time dedicated to this can make a difference. And if cost is an issue, that's okay. Like I said, there's many other free resources, great talks on YouTube, podcasts, books are really affordable, Audible books, different ways to do this. And if therapy itself, getting in the room privately, is uncomfortable, you could try a group workshop. You could go to a public talk or maybe a retreat. I find that retreats are more intensive. You're actually going to go much deeper there, and you're going to be, asked to be a little bit more vulnerable. So, buyer beware on that one. For those of you that are ready for it, I recommend it. My partner and I have done a couple weekends with specific events and done that together, and it's been really good for us. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is fear of blame, fear of old things coming up in sessions. So one or both partners might fear that basically they're going to have fingers pointed at them. They're going to be thrown under the bus, not just by their partner, but by the therapist. And, basically this whole thing is just going to create more issues and more problems, and it's going to create more conflict. And that makes a lot of sense. Makes sense you might have those fears. For me, I believe that a skilled facilitator is going to create a non-judgmental and balanced environment. So if you're going to couples sessions with a couples therapist who you feel like is not creating a safe, non-judgmental and balanced environment, you should either look elsewhere or let them know that you're experiencing that, so we can try to work through that or process that. Ultimately, one of the goals here is not to point fingers or blame or shame, but to understand more about each other, to work towards solutions, to restore empathy, to get you to a place where you can really sense what it's like to be your partner and they can sense what it's like to be you. And from that, we get some mutual understanding, hopefully collaboration. All couples that I talk with, they want to feel a deep sense that we're a team. We are in this together. We love each other. We've got each other's back. We're each other's cheerleaders and champions. In In the personal development space, there's also a lot of skepticism and cynicism about whether all of this does any good. Is this all just mental masturbation? It's all a scam. Therapists are out to get you, and they're just going to sit there and listen and take notes and then rebook you for next week, and just never going to end. And some couples are skeptical about whether therapy will actually help them, and especially if they've tried other methods. If they've tried therapy before and maybe they didn't have any success, maybe they had a bad session with a bad therapist or counselor or coach, just didn't go well. It wasn't a good fit. Maybe the person was not well referred. Maybe they were brand new. Who knows? But I have found personally, there are studies that have shown that couples therapy is effective and that therapy is highly effective. But personally, I have had profound insights and have noticed a lot of growth in my relationship with my partner. And we won't go into all of this now. I'll probably bring this up when she comes on the podcast. But, we've had to work through some pretty serious stuff together. Not, as I would see it, the most intense things that I've seen some couples work through, but heavy stuff, heavy lifting. So if we've got evidence-based techniques and we've got highly trained therapists, if we have someone that's referred to you, maybe has some reviews or testimonials that can help you with your communication, understanding how your childhood impacts your adult life, maybe connecting you two together in a really, empowering conversation that has some guide rails so it doesn't go totally off the cliff. We want to keep the rider on the horse, keep the conversation moving forward, keep the train on the tracks. That's definitely a goal that all couples therapists should have in mind. And many couples experience significant improvements, if they stick with it, stick with the process, and then practice what they preach. It's not enough to just read a book or listen to a podcast and then go about your day. Maybe you've got some information, but you need to apply that information. You need to integrate the teaching. And that takes time, it takes practice, it takes commitment to do that. Some couples are concerned about privacy, depending on their status in the world, if they're a high-ranking executive or celebrity. Couples of all walks, could have some privacy concerns. And it's really that they're worried about sharing intimate details, basically with a stranger, with a person that you met once or have never met, and that person could say something to somebody they know. The information could get out. There could be a breach of confidentiality. And that's an uncomfortable thing to think about, a lot of therapists are bound by strict confidentiality rules if they're registered, if they're licensed in the province or state or country. So what you share stays there. But if you're working with any facilitator who is an ally in your healing and growth, then they are going to honor confidentiality. And they could even present you with a written agreement if that makes you feel more comfortable that that is the case and that they believe that. And that they are all about creating a safe space for you to open up. That's the thing that matters the most, is your development, your safety. And that you can discuss issues without fear of judgment or breach of privacy. I also find that, in my experience, you can just sit with someone and feel a sense of trust with them. It doesn't mean that they value what you value, but you can confirm that. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say to your therapist, what is your policy on this? What do you believe about this? How do you handle these situations? Do you have a written agreement? It's okay to ask that question and make sure that this is the kind of experience or this is the kind of person that's a good fit for you and your needs. And maybe they can help put some of your concerns to rest. We talked in episode 2 about resistance to change. Therapy often requires us to confront some difficult stuff, to confront parts of ourselves that maybe we're not so proud of, parts of us that might be sabotaging our life or our relationship, maybe part of our entire outlook, or our attitude, and some of our behaviors day to day. And that's a bit daunting. Sometimes it's a bit psychedelic, to see something about yourself that you're not proud of and how that's impacting your partner, how it's impacting your family. So we can have one or both partners resist change, but usually if we're talking about therapy at all, it's usually because one partner wants to go. So if there's a resistance to change, it's usually coming from one partner who's feeling like they don't want to. What's the point? If we have to go, it means we shouldn't be together. If we have to work on things, well, maybe we should just end it now, because relationships should be easy. And some people prefer to be comfortable. They prefer to not change and just go with the status quo, even if it's problematic, because at least they know it, and there's a kind of comfort with that state. I believe that change is challenging, but also that we all have to change in order to make our adult relationships work. It's necessary. If we're not willing to grow, life is not going to be kind to us. Our relationships are not going to be kind to us. They're hard as it is, so we got to be willing to learn, to take on new perspectives, take on some of the understandings that come from scientific observation and research, be curious about what's worked for other couples, what techniques, conflict resolution skills, or ideas have made a difference for other people, just to be open to that. And a great facilitator will help guide you through certain practice or process at a pace that works for you both and help you make adjustments, because that's really what we're doing here, is making some refinements to the way that the couple is treating this space between, the way that the couple speaks with each other, the things they're doing and not doing, the things they're saying, the things they're withholding, everything that comes in the middle there, to try to create positive outcomes for you. So if you got a partner that's resistant to change, go back to episode 2, listen to that episode. I talk about that in depth because it is a common objection, a common pattern that I see with couples. Sometimes it is the woman dragging the man in, because the way that men are socialized creates that kind of minimizer dynamic. They can be a little bit more resistant, a little bit more avoidant to change. And there's some perspectives in that episode I shared that could be helpful. The other thing here, which is kind of like related to one of my points around blame, which is this fear of conflict, that basically once we start talking about things, that it's going to lead to more fighting. And one person or both people in the relationship is like, okay, well, there's this thing I haven't been talking about. And if I bring it up, I feel like you're going to be just pissed at me and things are just going to get worse. And then for sure, this relationship's going to end because we're going to have more confrontations. And part of this is like the couple also doesn't really know how to handle these moments. So that's why things are going sideways. They lack the self-regulation. They lack the self-awareness about what's happening between them and their partner. They're missing the context of childhood and how it's playing a role. And they're not able to handle some of these big moments on their own, which is one of the reasons why, they benefit from guidance, why so many couples can learn something when they're in a safe container where someone is able to moderate the conversation a little bit and highlight certain things that are going on that might be ineffective or just straight up harmful to the relationship. So yes, difficult conversations are going to happen. Difficult topics are going to come up in therapy, but that's part of life. Difficult things are going to come up. If we just avoid difficult conversations, we're going to have nobody left. We're going to be alone in our apartment because we weren't able to talk to anybody about anything. And so we've got to learn how to do it with people around us, colleagues, friends, family. We got to learn how to have the hard talks with our partner as well without driving the proverbial vehicle off the cliff. How can we keep this thing moving within the speed limit and headed in a safe direction, but also navigating terrain, unfamiliar territory, and hanging in there with each other, turning towards the challenge together as a team. So most therapists, couples therapists specifically, are also trained to manage conflict and help you navigate tough moments, tough conversations. One of the things that I do is I give people practical tools that they can use, that they can turn towards when they're outside of a therapy session. I think that's really important. The couples actually have an emergency kit or a worksheet or something that they can like, okay, we're not understanding each other. What can we do about it? Like, wow, what if you had one thing or two things? You're like, okay, let's go towards these tools. If I can just remember that they're there in the binder or on the folder in the laptop, and can we use it and can we try it? And let's see, if that works. I think another thing that can impact couples approaching therapy is just previous negative experiences. So one partner has had a negative experience or both. One partner has gone to see therapists before. They thought it was useless, a total waste of time. Or, in their previous relationship, they went to couples therapy. They did 3 sessions and they broke up anyway and it didn't work. I definitely am shocked personally at some of the stories I hear that people have with therapists, counselors, coaches. It's really tough. I see these conversations as sacred. Like, this is someone's life. This is the vulnerable material, the heaviest thing that they're holding, that they're going to bring in to talk to someone else about, often a stranger. And that needs to be treated with respect. That needs to be carefully held. And it's unfortunate that with such vulnerable material that we have people that aren't really great at their jobs, whether they're a psychologist, counselor, coach. I hear stories from around the world about people that are not regulated, have unethical practices, are telling clients what they should do instead of asking good questions to help the person create clarity for themselves. I've heard stories about outbursts and all kinds of inappropriate things. So this sucks that it's part of the reality, because you'd think if you're taking the most vulnerable material of your life into a room that, it would be held hopefully by a professional. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So seeking a great therapist, great facilitator is going to require us to ask some questions, maybe try a session, see how it goes, look at reviews, and maybe ask someone in our life if they have a referral or someone that, they would consider or that they trust. That can be tough if you don't have a lot of people around you that are doing personal development, but there are resources and there are ways. And just because something didn't go well before doesn't mean it can't in the future. Doctors get sick, couples therapists get divorced, and plumbers' pipes leak. I had a teacher tell me that one time. And I think it's important to remember that, that all of us have things to work on. All of us have growth edges, and we've got our vulnerabilities, but also that not every mechanic is amazing. Not every person that's certified in their thing is going to be able to do it for us. Sometimes we need the right voice. We need the right approach, the right energy for us to hear it. It's like when our parents told us things as a kid, we're like, whatever, like I'll do what I want. But maybe we heard it from someone else, like it was the exact same thing. But then we're like, oh, okay, maybe that's a good idea. And I found that with coaching, therapy, it's kind of similar. You need the right vibe, the right energy, the right relationship with that person, and for them to be able to show up in a certain way to reach you and connect with you. So it makes sense that you might be reluctant to try again, fearing the repeat of failure or previous outcome. And hopefully some of the suggestions here I've made, some of the things I've said could encourage you to think a little bit differently about it. Every therapist really does have a different approach. So if you've had a negative experience in the past, consider, trying someone else. Many couples do find success once they find a therapist who really actually fits their needs. Both person in the relationship, the couple needs to feel safe. They need to feel a sense of trust. They both need to feel okay with the person that they're working with. It's really important. If you don't feel safe, it's kind of a no-go. You're not going to make much progress because you're not going to feel comfortable to open up about the things that matter. You're not going to feel comfortable to allow this person to have access to your insecurities or your vulnerabilities. And that stuff's important in the therapy room. The last thing I'm going to mention today is that people believe they can fix things on their own. And this is a little bit part of the cliche, like not stopping at the gas station to ask for directions. Some couples or one person in the relationship just believes that, they should be able to fix this on their own without any outside help or counsel. Seeking therapy should be a last resort rather than a proactive step. So, the house needs to be totally on fire before we go. It's not something that I'm going to do in advance. It's basically like only until you say, I'm leaving you and I'm packing my bags, that you're willing to go to therapy. I wouldn't recommend this. I think that self-reliance is great. I think that, hey, let's figure it out. Let's talk about this. Okay. But one of the things that's part of this pattern is like, oh, we'll figure it out. Yeah, no, let's figure it out ourselves. Is that you probably won't figure it out. There's a tendency to kick the can down the road and say, okay, we'll figure it out, but actually not having any plan. It's like, okay, what are we going to do to figure it out? If we're not going to therapy, are we reading these 5 books over the next 4 months? What's our plan? How are things going to change? So you got to be careful to avoid this. We'll figure it out, because that's more of like an avoidant strategy to the problem. So a great facilitator is going to provide insights about all these things and give you techniques that are going to really honestly be hard to develop on your own. It's like they can guide you in the moment to have a conversation that it might be difficult for you to access in your own home because of fear of conflict or fear of being left or fear of being rejected or not accepted. It's all kinds of fear we got that plays a role in our relationship. And it also plays a role in us seeking support, putting our hand up to say, all right, I don't know it all. I got something to learn. And I'm going to put up my hard-earned dollars to see what I can get from this. So I think that what I'm saying here is that investing in yourself really can make a huge difference. I've noticed for me that it has. And I think that when you invest in yourself and when you grow, and there are some workshops or some books or some experiences that might suck or not give you what you need, or give you complicated ideas that are difficult to implement. But if you get the right teaching, the right teacher, it will really help you move things forward, better understand yourself, and help you achieve your goals. And that, for me, I value that. I think that all of you listening to this value that. So hopefully some of these beliefs here are not taking place in your relationship. But if any of them are, think about that, consider it. If you got questions about anything that I said, shoot me a message. And as always, I appreciate you listening to the show. No podcast sponsors, no ads here, no wasting your time. I just want to try to continue to deliver value and make more sense of relationships and some of the complicated concepts that come from psychology and neurology and so on. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Chat with you soon.